What would you do if your last bite could change a stranger's destiny? Lily, an exhausted waitress in Chicago, clutched her sandwich, the only comfort she had, her heart heavy with hunger and crushing loneliness. Then she saw Hera, trembling little girl, lost and pleading with her big eyes. On impulse, Lily gave away her entire sandwich, unaware that this act of kindness would unlock a shocking secret about the missing daughter of a millionaire. Will this generosity rewrite their futures or expose a truth too great to hide? Watch to the end to discover the miracle born from a single sandwich. All right, my dear audience, prepare for a story that will leave you speechless. Take a moment to hit like, subscribe, and leave a comment below telling me where you're watching from and what time it is for you. It's always thrilling to see viewers joining us from around the world. Lily Carter, a 24-year-old with deep brown eyes, stepped out of the Rusty Spoon Diner in Logan Square, Chicago, fatigue clinging to her like the thin layer of snow on the sidewalk. A 10-hour shift had drained her energy, leaving her legs aching and her spirit heavy. In a crumpled paper bag lay a roast beef and cheese sandwich, her rare reward after a long day, its faint warmth a small comfort amid mounting bills and unfinished dreams. Winter's bite in Chicago was merciless. Wind howled down Milwaukee Avenue, swirling, glittering snowflakes beneath the neon signs. Lily tightened her thin scarf and walked slowly, trying to banish the emptiness coiling in her chest. She knew life's harshness well. Raised in cramped housing, Lily had learned to survive on meager wages and forced smiles for customers. But tonight, something in the air's sharp stillness made her heart tremble. Turning into a narrow alley, her gaze halted. A tiny figure, no older than 5, huddled on the curb, arms wrapped around skinny knees as if clutching the last drop of warmth. The little girl's tangled black hair fell over her pale face, revealing only cracked, trembling lips. Her coat was threadbare and torn at the shoulder, exposing ghostly blue skin as though the cold had seeped into her very bones. One canvas shoe hung loosely from her foot, revealing icy purple toes. Lily's heart clenched, as if an invisible hand squeezed it. She knelt, the paper bag trembling in her hand, her breath misting in the frigid air. The girl's wide brown eyes lifted to meet hers, warm but heavy with fatigue beyond her years. In that moment, Lily saw not a stranger but a reflection of her own childhood, a child who once sat by the window, waiting for her mother's late shift to end, only to be met with silence. "Are you lost?" Lily asked gently, afraid to shatter something fragile. The little girl blinked slowly, her cracked lips parting in a quiet whisper like the wind through the dark alley. "Mom asked me to wait, but she never came back." Those words struck Lily like a blade sharp, cold breaking through the hardened shell she'd built to protect herself. She glanced around the empty alley, no one there but the snow drifting silently over the girl's fragile coat. Inside Lily, a battle raged. Reason whispered that she barely had enough for herself, let alone a stranger's child. But her hearter guiding force in darker days roared otherwise. She opened the paper bag. The sandwich's warmth spread like a reminder of all the moments she'd longed for someone to pause and see her. Lily tore the sandwich in two. The scent of grilled beef and melting cheese teased her hungry stomach, but she did not hesitate. She offered the larger half to the girl, the bread still warm in her trembling hand. "Harriet, you need it more than I do," she said softly but firmly, as if convincing herself. The girl looked up, eyes wide with cautious hope, then reached out, her tiny fingers clutching the bread as if it were treasure. She took a small bite, eyes shut tight, her pale face brightening with life as though the sandwich nourished not just her body, but a spark in her soul. "Thank you, miss," she whispered, her voice so faint it might have been carried away by the wind. Lily smiled, though waves of feeling churned inside her. She sat beside the girl, pulling her own coat tighter to ward off the cold. A question burned in her mind. Where was the girl's mother? But deeper still, Lily sensed something grandera, fragile, invisible bond forming between her and this child. She didn't know the girl's name or her story, yet in that moment Lily understood she could not walk away. That simple act, the shared sandwich, was more than a gift. It was a promise, a ray of hope kindled in Chicago's frozen darkness. Lily Carter stood motionless in the dark alley, her eyes fixed on Emma, the tiny girl clutching her sandwich as if it were a treasure. The chill of a Chicago winter night seeped through their thin clothes, but what made Lily's heart tremble was not the cold, but the thought of leaving this child alone in the darkness. She could not turn away, not after seeing the silent fear in those large brown eyes. She knelt down, her voice soft as a lullaby. "What's your name?" The little girl blinked, her cracked lips trembling as she whispered, "Emma." That name, simple and fragile as a petal fallen on snow, awakened in Lily an instinct to protect she never knew she had. Lily took Emma back to her tiny apartment above an old bakery on Division Street. The creaking wooden stairs sang the song of the hard-knock life Lily knew all too well. The apartment was a single bare room, with a sputtering old heater that barely pushed back the cold seeping through thin window panes. A narrow bed pressed against one wall, a small scratch table, and a few scattered belongings were all she owned. Yet to Emma, this place seemed a sanctuary, a small fortress amid the storm of uncertainty. Lily watched the little figure standing in the strange surroundings, curiosity mingled with apprehension in her gaze, and felt a tidal wave of responsibility surge in her chest, almost suffocating. She boiled water in her battered electric kettle, steam blurring the frigid air. From a drawer, Lily pulled out an old sweater, soft, but far too large for Emma's slight frame. She folded its hem into a makeshift nightdress and gently sat beside the girl. Emma's tangled black hair, matted with dust and sweat, needed care. Lily patiently combed through the knots with a chipped plastic brush, each movement slow and deliberate, as if afraid to hurt her. A distant memory flickered, her own mother combing Lily's hair on rare nights at home with unparalleled tenderness. Lily swallowed the lump in her throat, determined to push away her old sorrow and focus on Emma. "Have you ever seen a cat that sings?" she asked, her voice playful, hoping to lift Emma from her dark thoughts. Emma blinked and then managed a tiny, radiant smile, perhaps the brightest light Lily would see tonight. Lily picked up her phone and called the local precinct, her voice steady despite the worry in her eyes. She reported a lost girl, describing Emma's tattered coat and sorrowful eyes. But Emma could offer no address, no phone number, only that repeated plea. "Mom told me to wait." Those words tore at Lily like a fresh wound, a hope slipping away. The dispatcher promised to look into it, but their tone was dispassionate, as if hearing this hundreds of times. Lily hung up and looked at Emma, who now sat clutching the thin scarf Lily had wrapped around her shoulders. In the dim glow of a single lamp, Emma's face seemed calmer, yet still shadowed by nameless fear. As Emma curled under the narrow blankets, her voice drowsy yet trusting, she whispered, "Miss Sandwich, you're so kind." That innocent, heartfelt nickname pierced Lily's heart with bittersweet joy. She forced a smile, but behind it roared a storm of emotion. Lily spread a thin blanket on the floor beside the bed and lay down, using her knees as a pillow. She stared at the cracked ceiling, heavy with unspoken questions. She didn't know what she was doing or what tomorrow would bring, but one truth burned bright. She could not abandon Emma. In the darkness, the heater crackled, and Emma's even breathing created a silent lullaby. Lily closed her eyes and felt an invisible thread forming between them, fragile but unbreakable, woven from kindness and empathy, linking two lonely hearts on a winter's night. In his lavish Gold Coast penthouse in Chicago, Ethan Caldwell sat motionless before his computer screen, the cold blue light casting shadows over his gaunt features, once sharply defined, now blurred by grief. At 38, he was a tech millionaire who had built his empire from lines of code, yet all he now possessed was a shattered heart and a room brimming with memories. His eyes were bloodshot, dark circles marking countless sleepless nights haunted by nightmares of loss. A year ago, Clary, his beloved wife, had died in a car accident, leaving him and their little daughter Emma in a silent abyss. 3 months later, that wound was torn open again when Emma vanished. Ethan replayed that fateful afternoon in Lincoln Park as though it were etched into his mind. Emma, her black hair gleaming and her smile radiant, had chased a yellow butterfly, her laughter echoing like music. Ethan had smiled, his heart warming in that rare momentum. His phone rang, an investor calling from Shanghai. "Just 2 minutes," he told himself, turning away to answer. When he looked back, Emma was gone. The park, once filled with joy, became a terrifying maze. He called her name, racing past shrubs and benches, but found only silence. Police searched. Private detectives scoured surveillance footage. Bus routes were checked. Every avenue ended in hopelessness. Emma, the last light in his life, had vanished like a dream. Since then, Ethan followed a heartbreaking nightly ritual. He entered Emma's room, left untouched since her disappearance, her scribbled drawings still taped to the walls, her small shoes neatly lined by the window, and her teddy bear's familiar scent on the pillow. He would sit in her little rocking chair, clutch the bear to his chest, and bury his face in its soft fur, as though he could draw warmth from it. "I'm sorry, sweetheart," he'd whisper, voice fractured, each word a blade twisting in his heart. Guilt gnawed at him. If only he hadn't looked away, if only he hadn't let work intrude, Emma might still be here. The world hailed him a genius, but in this room, Ethan was only a failed father, trapped by his own helpless sorrow. That night, as pale moonlight filtered through his penthouse windows, a police alert made Ethan's heart pound time itself seem to halt. A 5-year-old girl matching Emma's description had been found on Milwaukee Avenue. Hands trembling, he opened the emailed traffic camera video. The screen flickered on, and Ethan choked back a cry. A young woman with her dark hair tied back knelt beside a small child on the curb. She offered the girl a sandwich and gently wrapped a scarf around her shoulders like a mother protecting her own. When the child looked up, her pallid face lit by a timid smile, Ethan felt his chest constrict. It was Emahi's little girl, alive, her brown eyes still sparkling with the light he thought lost forever. Tears spilled unbidden, streaming down his cheeks. But it was not just relief at finding her that shook him, it was seeing Emma's smile, the first he had witnessed since Claire's death. That stranger, clad in a thin coat with gentle hands, had done what he could not, had brought light back into his daughter's world. Ethan sprang to his feet, grabbed his coat, his heart hammering as if it would burst free of his chest. He tore out of his penthouse, heedless of Chicago's bone-chilling cold or the city lights glittering far below. In his mind, there was only one thought: Emma was alive, and he must reach her at once. Yet deep within him stirred another feeling, a blend of gratitude and curiosity for the woman who had saved his child without even knowing him. He did not yet realize that this moment was not merely a reunion, but the beginning of a painful secret waiting to be revealed. Dear viewers, take a moment to relax or pour yourself a drink, then stay tuned for the rest of this surprising story. Comment number 1 if you're enjoying it, so we know you're still with us. Lily Carter sat rigidly on a plastic chair in the Logan Square police station, her arms wrapped tightly around Emma, the little girl clinging to her like a lost kitten. Emma's pale face was buried in Lily's shoulder, her breathing soft yet full of trust, as if Lily were her only refuge. Lily felt her chest tighten as the officer before her bombarded her with questions about how she found Emma, why she brought the child home, and her decision not to leave her in that freezing alley. Lily answered calmly but with palpable worry, trying to explain her actions. But when the officer, eyes steely, mentioned suspected abduction, Lily's heart seemed to stop. A shiver ran down her spine, not from the winter cold, but from the thought that her kindness might be misinterpreted. She was alone, cold, and hungry, Lily said, voice trembling but resolute. I just wanted to help. Suddenly, the station door swung open, ripping Lily from her spiraling thoughts. Ethan Caldwell entered tall, in a fitted black coat, cold gray eyes sweeping the room like a silent storm. His face was etched with sleepless nights and unspoken anguish. He looked at Emma, her eyes wide then at Lily, a flicker of surprise crossing his features, as if he could not have imagined his daughter's savior would be so young and ordinary. Lily's heart pounded not at his imposing presence, but because she realized this was Emma's father, the man the child had waited for in vain. "Emma!" Ethan called, his voice thick with both joy and pain. He hurried forward, hands trembling, hoping Emma would run into his arms, but Emma did not move. She clutched Lily, her tiny fingers gripping her shirt, whispering in a shaky voice, "Miss Sandwich, please don't go." Those words pierced Ethan's heart like a blade, sharp and painful. He knelt, reaching out to his daughter, but Emma recoiled, nestling deeper into Lily's embrace, as though terrified of being taken from her only safe haven. Ethan felt his chest constrict, not in anger, but in fear that he had failed his daughter, not only in the park 3 months ago, but again in her heart right now. A female officer, sensing the tension, gently spoke. "She's very attached to Miss Carter." Ethan nodded, eyes still fixed on Emma, then turned to Lily, his voice hoarse. "Thank you for saving her." His words were sincere but shaky, as though he struggled to restrain a flood of emotion. Lily sensed the worry behind his gratitude, not suspicion, but fear of losing Emma again. She offered a faint smile, wanting to reassure him, but her throat felt parched. At that moment, a woman entered, golden hair and eyes sharp as blades. Rachel, Claire's sister, stood imposingly, her presence sucking the air from the room. "Who is she?" Rachel demanded, pointing at Lily, her voice cold as steel. "Do you think you can replace my sister?" The accusation struck Lily dumb. Before she could respond, Rachel continued, her voice trembling with anger and grief. "Claire, Emma's mother, was your high school best friend, but you turned your back on her after some foolish argument." Those words hit like lightning, tearing open memories Lily had buried deep. Memories flooded back, painful and vivid. Teenage days when she and Claire shared every secret, laughed under summer sun, vowing lifelong friendship. But one thoughtless misunderstanding, some rumor, an offhand remark drove them apart. Lily had walked away, haunted by regret but never brave enough to make amends. Now, facing Rachel, Lily felt her heart shatter. Claire, her dearest friend, was gone, and Emma, the child Lily had rescued, was Claire's daughter. Lily's hands trembled as she clutched Emma, as if holding on to a fragment of her past. She wanted to apologize, to explain, but guilt and sorrow choked her words. Rachel looked at her with eyes both furious and broken, as though Lily were not just a stranger but the embodiment of every loss Rachel had endured. Lily Carter stood in the stifling room of the Logan Square police station, her heart torn like shredded fabric after Rachel's icy accusations. Emma, the tiny girl with trusting brown eyes, gripped Lily's hand, her little fingers trembling as if afraid to be pulled from her only safe harbor. Rachel, Claire's sister, demanded that Ethan take Emma home immediately, her voice sharp enough to erase Lily's presence entirely, but Emma's choked sob, "I want Miss Sandwich," shone through the darkness like a beam of light, melting away every doubt. Ethan, looking into his daughter's tear-filled eyes, felt a stab to his heart, not anger, but the pain of realizing Emma needed Lily more than he did in that moment. With an unexpected decision, he turned to Lily, his voice low but sincere, and invited her to care for Emma for a few days until she settled. Though her heart still reeled with memories of Claire, Lily nodded, clinging to the tiny spark of hope guiding her through the storm of emotions. At Ethan's Gold Coast penthouse, Lily stepped into her new role with a natural tenderness, as though born to bring light into dark corners. To Emma, she became a warm candle, driving out the chill of loss. Each morning, she sat beside the girl, guiding her shaky pencil strokes into shimmering unicorn seach line, a new smile on Emma's face. She sang silly songs, her offbeat but loving voice making Emma giggle with laughter like healing notes resonating in Lily's own heart. Her stories of flying unicorns, woven from imagination, became a comforting blanket for Emma's soul, banishing the nightmares that once haunted sleep. Lily watched Emma's eyes brighten and her smile grow, feeling a strange joy as though she was sewing together the rips in Emma's spirit and in her own. Ethan, at first keeping his distance, observed Lily with the wariness of a man long imprisoned by grief. He saw her gently wiping Emma's fevered brow, patiently detangling her hair, and felt his own frozen heart begin to thaw. One night, when Emma ran a high fever, Lily stayed up by her bed, wiping her forehead with a cool cloth and whispering tales of enchanted forests. Ethan lingered outside the door, too awed to intrude, but inside his chest swelled a quiet gratitude. He quietly placed a tray of ginger tea at the threshold, along with a hastily scrawled note, "You need some rest too. Thank you." That simple message cracked open a door proof that the walls between them were falling. Small moments wove an invisible thread between them. A shared dinner, when Lily guided Ethan's clumsy knife through vegetables and Emma's laughter rang out sunlight piercing storm clouds. A note tucked into Emma's lunch. "You're a unicorn superhero." Ethan, reading it by chance, felt warmth flood his chest. Lily realized she was not only healing Emma, but also restoring Ethan, the man once trapped by guilt and loss. In those moments, she too found healing. Her own regret over Claire, the years of estrangement, became a scar no longer bleeding, but a reminder to cherish the present. But Rachel did not let go easily. One afternoon she appeared, her gaze still icy, accusing Lily of exploiting Emma to access Ethan's fortune. Her words were daggers, cutting deep into Lily's heart, causing her to tremble. In that agonizing instant, Rachel revealed a truth that stunned Lily. Claire had wanted to reconcile with her before she died, but never got the chance. Overwhelmed by guilt, Lily burst into tears and embraced Rachel, her voice cracking. "I never meant to replace Claire. I only wanted to atone for not being there for her." Those words, raw and broken, touched Rachel, softening her rage enough to step back and leave a narrow opening for forgiveness. Lily stood silently, her heart heavy but flickering with hope, not just for Emma, but for a chance to mend what had been shattered. A year had passed, and Lily Carter now stood before a small wooden house by Lake Michigan, her heart no longer a locked door but flung wide open, filled with light. She, Ethan Caldwell, and Emma were a family, not by legal bond, but by the invisible threads of love and healing. Today was a special day, not a grand wedding, but a quiet ceremony, a sacred promise between them and the past. Beneath an ancient oak, Lily and Ethan clasped hands, their palms interwoven as if afraid to let go and lose this miracle. Beside them, 6-year-old Emma wore a wreath of wildflowers she'd woven herself, her smile as radiant as sunlight through leaves. In her hands was a simple wooden box containing the fragments of their hearts. Lily knelt and placed the box into a shallow grave, her gentle gaze tinged with sorrow. Inside lay letters, Lily's apologies to Claire, her friend who had passed, for their years of estrangement, Ethan's promise to his late wife, vowing he would live well for Emma's sake, and Emma's own shaky drawings of her mother in heaven, scribbled beneath the words, "Mom, I still love you, but I also love Miss Sandwich." Emma whispered her drawing's message like a prayer, tightening the knot in Lily's chest. Lily looked into the girl's eyes, no longer fearful but full of love and peace. Ethan, standing beside her, squeezed Lily's hand, his eyes silently thanking her for bringing his daughter back, not just in body but in spirit. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the path leading to the house. Rachel, Claire's sister, approached with tear-bright eyes, her face bereft of the cold hardness she'd worn a year ago. Lily froze, her heart pounding as Rachel's earlier accusations resurfaced, but Rachel said nothing. She reached out, her hands trembling, and enveloped Lily in a fierce embrace, as if to wipe away every grudge. "Claire would be proud of you," Rachel whispered, her voice thick with emotion, each word shattering the walls between them. Lily felt tears slip down her cheeks, not of pain, but of profound release. In that moment, all anger and misunderstanding dissolved, leaving only love and forgiveness, like a river purging old wounds. Today, Lily worked at a child bereavement center funded by Ethan's company, aptly named Claire's Haven. Each day she helped children find their smiles again, just as she'd done for Emma. She saw herself in their lost eyes, and each laugh she restored stitched together her own grief over Claire. Emma, her black hair shining and her smile bright, ran along the lakeshore with colored pencils, sketching shimmering unicorns and gifting them to anyone she met. She was no longer the shivering child in an alley, but a little flame warming every heart around her. Ethan, once a broken father, now looked at Emma and Lily with hope, as though he'd rediscovered life's meaning. As the sun dipped low, Lily, Ethan, and Emma sat on the grass, holding each other beneath the golden sunset. Ethan bent to Lily's ear, "You found us when the world lost its way." His words, simple yet weighty, brought tears to Lily's eyes. She smiled softly, wrapping Emma closer, her voice trembling. "No, we found each other." From a single sandwich, Lily had not only built a family but healed seemingly irreparable wounds. She had atoned to Claire, not through words, but by loving Emma and Ethan with all her heart. Rachel, watching from a distance, now bore only peace in her gaze, as if she had forgiven herself as well. Lily looked out over Lake Michigan, feeling her heart lift like a bird released, freed after years of captivity. Her small act of kindness, a shared sandwich in a freezing alley, had blossomed into a miracle, proving that forgiveness can bridge even the greatest divides. Emma nestled in her arms, sketching one last unicorn, and Lily knew that, despite all the pain of the past, they had found each other, a family woven from love, compassion, and letters sent to heaven. From Lily's sandwich, we learn that a simple act of kindness can heal the deepest wounds and reconnect lost hearts. This story reminds us that love and forgiveness always have the power to bloom, even in darkness. Have you ever performed a small act of kindness that changed someone's life? Share your story in the comments. Like and subscribe to 30 Millionaire Stories to spread inspiration. Thank you to our viewers in the US. Let's sow seeds of kindness and heal the world together.